Okay, so there's been quite a bit happening on the defense front lately, hasn't there? Big headlines.
Absolutely. You saw the defense minister in Lucknow
Hmm.
inaugurating that BrahMos Integration and Testing Center.
Exactly, yeah. A big signal about, boosting our own capabilities.
And then almost immediately after, we got that news about the S-400 Triumph.
Right, the interception, successfully taking down those Pakistani missile and drone threats.
It really highlights the effectiveness of these systems. These aren't just incremental updates. They feel like, well, significant steps forward.
For sure, and that's why we want to do this deep dive. Based on reporting from the Indian Express, we really want to unpack the significance of these two systems, BrahMos and the S-400.
Yeah, dig into what makes them tick, what makes them so important, especially, I think, for listeners tracking current affairs, maybe prepping for UPSC exams, understanding these technologies, the strategy behind them. It's pretty crucial.
Couldn't agree more. So that's the plan. We'll break down the BrahMos, then the S-400, look at their features, their capabilities, what these recent events tell us.
And maybe touch on the wider picture, too. Kinetic versus non-kinetic warfare and these defense partnerships India's building.
Exactly. So let's jump in. BrahMos first, that supersonic edge.
Sounds good. The name itself, BrahMos, it tells a story. It's a mashup, right?
Yeah, Brahmaputra and Moscow rivers, India and Russia.
Precisely. It signifies that joint venture BrahMos Aerospace,
Mhm.
India's DRDO holds 50.5%, and Russia's MPO Mashinostroyenia has the other 49.5%.
And this project has been a long time in the making. That first successful test wasn't that way back in 2001. Chandipur, Odisha.
That's right, 2001. It shows the kind of long-term commitment involved in developing something this complex.
So what's the core tech? What makes it supersonic?
Well, fundamentally, it's a two-stage design. Stage one is a solid propellant booster, gives it that initial kick.
Right.
Then stage two is a liquid-fueled ramjet engine. That's what sustains the supersonic flight, pushing it to Mach 3.
Mach 3. 3 times the speed of sound. That speed is the key advantage, isn't it?
It really is. It dramatically cuts down the reaction time for any defense system. Trying to intercept something moving that fast is incredibly difficult, a real game changer.
And it's fire and forget, too, I read. You launch it and it finds its way. Plus, that standoff range capability.
Exactly. You can launch it from a safe distance, keeping personnel out of the immediate danger zone. Think of it like delivering a punch without getting too close.
Makes sense. And its flight profile is quite versatile. High altitude, but also sea skimming.
Yeah, it can operate way up high, like 15 kilometers, but it can also fly incredibly low, just 10 meters off the deck, to evade radar and hit targets precisely.
And the range keeps getting better. Started around 290 kilometers.
Right, initially 290 kilometers.
Yeah.
Now it's up to 350 kilometers for current versions. And they're aiming much higher for the future, talking 800 kilometers, even potentially hypersonic speeds, Mach 5 plus.
Wow. When you put it side by side with older subsonic missiles, the difference is stark.
Oh, absolutely. 3 times faster, 2.5 times the range, better seeker, and the impact. 9 times more kinetic energy. It's just a different league of weapon.
And it's not just one missile, it's a whole family, right? Different versions for different platforms.
Exactly. There are several variants deployed.
Let's quickly run through those. The Navy's had them for ages, haven't they? Ship launched.
Since 2005, yeah.
Okay.
INS Rajput was the first warship fitted. Gives the Navy a serious punch, anti-ship, land attack. They can fire single shots or salvos up to 8 missiles.
Okay. And the Army, land-based versions.
Operational since 2007. These are mobile launchers, usually 4 to 6 per unit, each carrying 3 missiles. They can hit multiple targets almost simultaneously. Range is now up around 400 kilometers for these, with speeds near Mach 2.8 initially.
Then there's the air-launched one, BrahMos ALCM on the Sukhoi 30 MKIs. That sounds like a major strategic asset.
It definitely is. It's the heaviest weapon integrated onto the Su-30 MKI. Combine the missile's reach with the jet's range. You're talking about a strike capability extending maybe 1,500 kilometers, huge deterrent along borders and in the Indian Ocean region.
And even submarines can launch them.
Yep, there's a submarine-launched variant. Can be fired from underwater, maybe 50 meters deep. Adds that whole stealth dimension.
And looking forward, BrahMos NG, next generation.
Right, that's the future. It's designed to be lighter, stealthier, more versatile, suitable for air, naval, underwater platforms. Even launchable from torpedo tubes, apparently.
Smaller, stealthier. That definitely ups its value. Okay, so that's a good picture of the BrahMos. Let's switch gears to the S-400 Triumph, our shield in the sky.
Right, the S-400, you hear that name a lot. Russian-developed, considered one of the world's absolute top-tier long-range surface-to-air missile systems. or SAMs.
NATO calls it the SA-21 Growler, I think.
Well, that's the one. It entered service with Russia back in 2007. Its real strength is its multi-layered defense. It's not just for one type of threat.
What kind of threats are we talking about?
Pretty much anything that flies. Aircraft, obviously, but also ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, drones, even stealth aircraft that are designed to be hard to detect. It creates this layered bubble of defense.
Makes sense. And the stats are pretty eye-watering, the range.
Up to 400 kilometers engagement range, altitude up to 30 kilometers.
That's a massive area covered. And the speed it can intercept things?
Up to Mach 14. That's around, 17,000 kilometers per hour. Extremely fast response.
Mm-hmm.
And its radar can see things out to 600 kilometers.
Oh, wow. And it can handle multiple targets?
Yeah, it can track up to 300 targets at once and engage up to 36 simultaneously. It's like having, a whole command center focused on air defense in one system.
And it does this using different missiles for different jobs?
Exactly. It's got a toolkit. The 40N6 missile for the really long-range stuff, out to 400 kilometers. The 48N6 for medium range, say 250 kilometers. And then the 9M96E series for shorter to medium ranges, maybe 40 to 120 kilometers. Covers all the bases.
India's invested heavily in this. That deal in 2018, over $5 billion for 5 squadrons.
Yes, a very significant acquisition.
Okay.
It really underlines the priority India gives to air defense, especially important for, anyone tracking defense spending and strategic choices for UPSC and such.
And where are we with deployment?
3 squadrons are currently operational. The other 2 are expected by 2026. India calls it the Sudarshan Chakra.
Apt name. Which brings us back to that recent incident. Using the S-400 against that Pakistani aerial attack, intercepting those SS-Guard, Songar drones and missiles.
Exactly. That's the real test, isn't it?
Yeah.
Moving from capability on paper to proven effectiveness in a live kinetic situation, it shows it works, and works decisively.
A powerful demonstration. And those Songar drones, the Turkish ones, they aren't simple things either, right? Armed, stealthy.
No, they're quite advanced. Turkey's first indigenous armed UAS, according to the Indian Express. Multiple weapon options, safety features, designed for stealth and coordinated strikes. The fact the S-400 could handle them effectively is, a big confidence booster.
Okay, so we have BrahMos for offense, S-400 for defense-formidable kinetic tools. But defense strategy today isn't just about physical force, is it? There's this whole other dimension, non-kinetic warfare.
It's absolutely crucial to understand. Kinetic warfare is the direct stuff. Airstrikes, artillery, boots on the ground, like the Balakot strike in 2019, or, hypothetical future ops like Operation Sindoor mentioned in some analyses.
Right, the physical fight.
Non-kinetic, on the other hand, is about weakening the adversary without necessarily dropping bombs. It targets their stability, political, economic, informational, even psychological. It's more indirect.
Can you give some examples? Again, thinking about folks trying to grasp these concepts, maybe for exams.
Sure. Cyber warfare is a big one. Think of Stuxnet, the reported attack on Iran's nuclear program. Information warfare spreading fake news like false claims about aircraft losses during a conflict.
Yep.
Electronic warfare jamming enemy radar communications. India has systems like Samyukta and Divya Drishti for this. Psychological warfare may be broadcasting threats, releasing videos of troop movements to intimidate. And economic warfare, using trade sanctions, tariffs. Like when India revoked Pakistan's most favored nation status after Pulwama. It's about applying pressure through non-military means.
So India's strategy uses both, the punch of BrahMos and the shield of S-400, but also these non-kinetic tools.
Precisely. It's an integrated approach. You need both kinetic deterrence and response, and the ability to operate in these other non-kinetic domains.
Yeah.
And underpinning all this is the network of defense partnerships India is building.
Right. Those recent agreements, they seem quite significant. Let's touch on those. The relationship with Russia is obviously long-standing.
Absolutely. Beyond just buying the S-400, we've got MiG-29s, Camo helicopters, but crucially also licensed production in India. T-90 tanks, the Su-30 MKIs, AK-203 rifles, and BrahMos itself. That builds domestic capability.
And ties with the U.S. have deepened significantly, too.
Very much so. That U.S.-India Compact Initiative signals closer military tech cooperation. Agreements like SOSA, the Liaison Officer MOA, they help interoperability. And we've integrated a lot of U.S. kits, C-130Js, C-17s, Apache helicopters. They add real muscle.
And there's even talk of F-35s down the line.
Ongoing talks, yeah. That would be another major step if it happens.
What about European partners? UK and France.
Also growing ties. The UK FTA should help defense trade. We've seen collaborations like Thales UK and BDL working on missiles and plans for an air-to-air missile facility in Hyderabad.
In France, Rafale, submarines.
Yep, the deal for 26 Rafale M jets for the Navy. Plus, that defense industrial roadmap covers Scorpion subs, Rafale's more indigenous production. It shows a really broad strategic partnership developing.
So putting it all together, it looks like a strategy of building strength through both indigenous efforts, like BrahMos getting its own testing center, and through diversifying international partnerships for high-end tech like the S-400 and advanced aircraft.
That's a good summary. It enhances readiness across different domains and strengthens deterrence. For anyone following India's strategic trajectory, particularly UPSC aspirants, understanding these agreements, who we're partnering with, and on what is key.
Absolutely. So the main takeaway seems to be that systems like BrahMos and S-400 represent major steps in India's capabilities, proven recently in action. And they fit into this broader strategy, mixing kinetic and non-kinetic tools, all supported by a growing web of international defense ties.
Exactly. It's a complex picture, but these recent developments really highlight some core elements of India's current security posture.
So for you listening, whether you're deep into UPSC prep or just want to understand India's place in the world, grasping these defense developments is pretty vital. It tells you a lot about current strategy and future direction.
Which leads to a good question to ponder, perhaps. Given how fast warfare and technology are changing, what capabilities do you think will be the most critical for India's security over the next decade or so? What's the next big thing we need to focus on?
That's a great question. We'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Please do like this deep dive if you found it useful, subscribe for more, and definitely leave your comments and any questions you have below. We based today's discussion heavily on reporting from the Indian Express, so do check out their work for more detail.